The NBA draft is just like any type of betting. The outcome depends on the human factor and luck, which makes the job of a general manager extremely hard at times. Even the most celebrated college players can turn into busts, and sometimes the rawest prospects develop into all-stars and MVPs. Here we are going to discuss the biggest steals in the draft and players who yielded the best return relative to their low draft position. Number 10. Jon Stockton. Jon Stockton was drafted just like he played, and how he looked, flying under the radar. He was not a hot commodity on draft night, as many scouts and GMs doubted that the unathletic and short player that looks like an accountant could play with the big boys. A lot of people were surprised to see Utah pick him with the 16th pick in the famed 1984 draft, but the Jazz had the last laugh. 19 years and over 15,000 assists later, Stockton retired as the best passer in NBA history, and he made all his dimes in the Jazz uniform, making this pick one of the best returns on investment ever. One season after drafting Stockton, Utah made another big steal and snatched Karl Malone, who fell all the way to 13th place in the draft. Number 9. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was the glue guy for Marquette University and was a jack of many trades, but master of none, other than hustle. There was a big question: could he develop a jump shot and become a factor at the offensive end? And that's why he waited until the last pick in the first round to hear his name called by the commissioner. Selected by the Bulls in 2011, Butler proved he is one of the hardest workers in the NBA. He developed into a 5-time All-Star and one of the best leaders in basketball, and made a bigger impact than almost all players drafted ahead of him. Number 8. Giannis Antetokounmpo. At first, nobody knew how to pronounce his name. David Stern said it when the Bucks made the 15th pick in 2013, and a lot of people thought he was just another exotic project who was not going to pan out. Giannis wasn't listed high on any mock draft, as he was extremely raw and extremely skinny. The Bucks took a gamble on Giannis, and it paid off tremendously. 7 years later, he is a 2-time NBA MVP and one of the most physically dominant players who ever played. Number 7. Nikola Jokic. If you watched the 2014 NBA draft on TV, you didn't see Nikola Jokic get selected, because nobody did. By the time Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum was saying his name, some ESPN producer decided it was time to skip to commercials. While the world watched a Taco Bell commercial, the Denver Nuggets selected the Serbian center, who would go on to become the best passing big man in NBA history. Even though he's about to play in just his 6th NBA season, he's already done enough to be considered a massive steal. At the age of 25, he's just entering his prime, and barring any serious injury, there is no doubt that he will make plenty more All-Star teams and possibly bring the first NBA title to Denver. Number 6. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman had one of the most unusual paths to the NBA. He was homeless for 2 years after high school and worked as a janitor at an airport to support himself. In his last attempt at basketball, he attended junior college in Oklahoma, where he averaged 25 points and 15 rebounds, which was enough to get invited to a pre-draft camp for NBA prospects, where he caught the attention of the Pistons scouts. Not many believed that a 25-year-old Rodman who only played in junior college was worth spending a pick on, but the Pistons did, and they snagged him with the 27th pick. Rodman would become a pivotal part of the bad boy era and win 2 NBA championships with Detroit, and then 3 more as a member of the Chicago Bulls. He was the best rebounder the NBA has ever seen, and one of its most tenacious defenders, something you don't usually find in the second round of the draft. Number 5. Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol first came to the USA as a teenager, when his older brother Pau was drafted 2nd overall and started playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. Marc didn't know the language and had a hard time getting acclimated to America. He found comfort in food, and fast food menus were among the first things he learned to say. Nicknamed Big Burrito, younger Gasol ballooned up and didn't receive any substantial NCAA offers. With some help from Pau, who lobbied for him, Marc returned to Spain in 2003 to extend his basketball career. 4 years later, and dozens of pounds less, Marc entered his name in the draft. But he was still considered too slow and too unfit, and that's why he fell all the way to the Lakers with the 48th pick. Fate would have it that Marc got traded for his brother and ended up in Memphis, while Pau moved to LA in 2008. The brotherly swap was one of the best win-win trades in NBA history. The Lakers won 2 titles with Pau, while Marc had an even better career with the Grizzlies than his big bro, highlighted with 3 All-Star selections and the Defensive Player of the Year award. Number 4. George Gervin. There are only 3 people who have won NBA scoring titles 4 times or more: Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, and George the Iceman Gervin. While MJ and KD were top 3 picks, it's hard to believe Gervin lasted until the 3rd round and the 40th pick, where the Phoenix Suns finally selected him in the 1974 NBA draft. This late pick was even more baffling, considering Gervin already played 2 seasons in the ABA, where he averaged 23 points for the Virginia Squires and San Antonio Spurs in 1974. Because he was drafted so low, the Iceman decided to stay with the Spurs and the ABA and never joined the Suns. Although not technically a draft steal, we don't see why no NBA team picked Gervin in the lottery and gave him a big bag of money to change leagues and come to the NBA. Their loss was the Spurs' game, as the Iceman became a 9-time All-Star and one of the best players who ever wear silver and black. Number 3. Tony Parker. Finding gems late in the draft became the Spurs' MO, and what their GM R.C. Buford is known for. The Spurs hit the home run in 2001 by drafting French point guard Tony Parker with the 28th pick of the first round. Parker became the vital part of the team and the lead engine behind their motion offense. He was the best point guard in the NBA in his prime, with a plethora of crazy finishing moves and the speed very few could match. Tony was a 4-time champ with the Spurs, a 6-time All-Star, and the Finals MVP in 2007. Number 2. Kobe Bryant. The NBA world was very different in 1996. There were no mock drafts, YouTube mixtapes, and hours of video analysis on every draft prospect like there is now. That's why Kobe Bryant flew under the radar, and why outside of Philadelphia, almost nobody even knew this kid and how good he really was. Yes, Kobe was talented, but he was also deemed not physically ready for the NBA, and that's why 13 teams in the NBA passed on him in the draft. Only Jerry West, the GM of the Lakers, realized how special this 17-year-old really was after he dominated in the workouts and showed maturity far beyond his age. West then bamboozled the Hornets into drafting Kobe and trading him to the Lakers, and the rest was history. Bryant became one of the best and most legendary players ever to lace him up, and stealing him from the Hornets and the rest of the NBA is one of the best moves any GM has ever pulled. And before we move up to the biggest draft steal in history, we'll name a few other players that deserve an honorable mention, such as Gilbert Arenas, selected with the 31st pick, Draymond Green, who was the 35th pick, Alex English, who was drafted 23rd overall in 1976, or Isaiah Thomas, who was the 60th pick in 2011. Number 1. Manu Ginobili. Arguably the biggest draft steal ever happened in the 1999 NBA Draft, when the San Antonio Spurs chose Manu Ginobili late in the second round. The left-handed Argentinian was yet to become a known name in Europe and would only join the Spurs in 2002, after being named the EuroLeague's MVP in 2001. Draft and stash proved well worth the wait for the Spurs, who got a finished product in Ginobili, who helped them win a title in his rookie season. Manu became a legend in San Antonio, winning 3 more titles with the team and firmly establishing himself as one of the best foreign players to ever play in the NBA. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as we put out videos like these every day. Let us know what you thought about this video in the comments. And would you put any other draft steal to this list?